what? Let's pause this a second
Okay,
until Jake's ready,
sure.
and we can start recording it. Because that would be a good
Cool.
topic.
No, really, really, very much so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Although we do kind of segue in, so we'll
We
start
do.
get Jake get ready, and we'll just continue on with that. So talk about Pakistan and their medical care.
Well, can we get like 10 minutes about him though, and then we can go into their medical care. I guess that'll be a
Well,
first.
no, I mean we'll talk about that as a segue in, and then we'll do the show introduction, and then
Okay,
talk about
What are
him, and
you
then we can
eating,
go back to.
gotcha.
Jake?
Okay.
Jake, what are you eating?
Oh, I'm not eating anything. That's tobacco.
He's poisoning
Just
himself.
tobacco?
It's tobacco. Yeah.
You know that's really common in Pakistan.
Oh, really?
Yep. Every other person, they have this small box. They just open it and they just put it in their mouth. Just
Yeah.
What
tobacco.
about snuff? Do they still snuff a lot there?
What's that?
Better be recording.
No, we're recording, but like we'll segue in. Yeah.
All right. What about snuff though?
What's snuff?
You know, the dried powdered that they take a pinch and sniff it.
No, I don't know about that.
I thought that
We have a
came
lot
from.
of not ingestible. How would I say it? Like things that you can. Um, there is this strong thing. I'm forgetting the name of it. You basically make a ball of it. It's like a clay, and they just keep it in their mouth. And apparently, it's something similar to tobacco.
Hmm.
They have one of those as well. And yeah, in general, people like tobacco is quite common in Pakistan.
So
We
so are
have something.
guns.
We have there's one more thing. There is this thing called pan. Okay, it's basically a leaf. I wish I could Google what's pan in English. There you go. It says it's what? That's not English. That's Arabic. Um, leaf, cognate leaf. Okay, so basically it's an edible leaf, and then they put a lot of tobacco in it, and then different kind of flavors and stuff. People eat that. They don't really eat that. They just keep it in their mouth, and you're just um, chewing it around, and then and then
Like
they
gum.
spit everything out.
It's
And
like the
people
tobacco
who
version of spice. You know how they take spice and they just take a regular plant and they chop it up and they put synthetic cannabinoids on there and then smoke it.
Oh yeah, but this one is a bit different. It's like they roll it in a piece of leaf. It's a big leaf, and I'll share a video with you. It's quite interesting. So they have two versions. One is the adult version, which is basically for people who like tobacco, and one is the children's version, which is sweet, and they put all sorts of different kind of like stuff in it, and the children's they love it.
So
And
it's
when you
like
get
like
used
chewing
to
gum.
it, it's like what?
Like chewing gum.
No, not like a chewing gum. The one for honestly, I'm unable to explain it properly, but it's kind of delicious. It's something you have after having a meal. For example, if I'm okay, even here in Saudi Arabia, right? Let's say if I'm invited somewhere at someone's house, so I'm gonna go. We're gonna have a meal and everything, and afterwards they're gonna just it's something you don't call it sweet. I mean, not it's not served as dessert. It's just something it's just something small to eat. It's like roll in a piece of leaf, and there are tons of different sweet things in it.
Like an after
Uh,
dinner mint.
yeah, you can say something like that. It's called pan. It's quite good. It's quite good.
Well, the next time I'm in the Middle East, I will definitely,
Oh, sure, definitely.
hit up the any of the Arabs I run into, and I will be like, "Yo, let me get some of that pan." And
No, Arabs don't eat that.
oh, okay,
Pakistani and Indians do.
okay,
Pakistani is Indian. I think also in Afghanistan and Bangladesh, like these, Nepal, all these, this whole area, the Indo-Pak subcontinent, people they have it, or there. It's like quite common. You can just find it anywhere
Huh.
mm.
if you're in the city.
We're gonna take a
Well,
quick
I hope we're
interlude.
recording. We've already started, though.
Yeah. We're gonna take a quick interlude, but yeah. This welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Jake,
I'm Drake.
and this is Jake and Drake Show. Today we are blessed to have a special guest. His name is Taha, and he is here going to talk a little bit about himself. He's going to talk about the country he grew up in, the country he currently lives in, and briefly talk about how much our country fucking sucks. But at any rate, we're talking about this bond, and you were talking about how it's not an Arab thing; it's a Pakistani Indian thing.
Yeah, it is. Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure,
So,
Yeah, thanks for being here.
thank you. So, basically, yeah, a lot of traditional stuff, man. I mean, I was born in Saudi Arabia. I was raised in Saudi Arabia, but my background is basically from Pakistan. My dad is from Karachi city. My mom, she's from Islamabad. Pakistan itself, when you look at it, it's divided into two parts. One is the beautiful part, and one is the fucked up part, right? So the most of the fucked up part, the anything you hear about bombings and any kind of like shittiest thing happening in Pakistan, they usually happen. They like all of them, most of them, they happen in this one city which is called Karachi. The problem with Karachi is that we have a population of to 20 million, I believe. Yeah, I think 20 million or 30 million in one city, right? And it's like a small. Um, when you talk about the area, it's really small. And when you talk about the force, like police or we don't have army over there, but we have something called rangers, right? They're like semi-army, semi-police. They're above police, and police is doing the police work. But rangers, they have much more dangerous task. If there is any kind of what do you call those, like gangs and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
they deal with them. Police don't like, never deals with them. So whenever even us, I'm living here. Whenever I open the news, all I see is this shit is happening here, this shit is happening there. But if you live in Karachi, everyone is living peacefully. Literally nothing is happening around. Everyone is living their normal life and nothing is happening. But there is one thing though, huge difference, cultural difference within Pakistan, right? So if I move from Karachi to Islamabad, Islamabad is the capital city. If you go to Islamabad, you don't worry about things like I'll get robbed or like in Karachi, if whenever I'm leaving my house, my mom, she's like, Taha, where's your cell phone? So apparently you can't carry an expensive cell phone with you and go out. If anyone sees that, they'll show you a gun and snatch it from you.
For a
So
cell
it's
phone.
that. Yep. Cell
And
phone,
that's in
expensive
Karachi.
watch. That's in Karachi, yes. Karachi itself is divided into two parts. Apparently, I don't exactly know the areas, but apparently there is this bridge, there is this really long ass bridge. So anything on the other side of the bridge, everything is peaceful. Nobody gets mugged. Nobody's getting killed or anything. And if you move to the other side of the bridge, you hear all sorts of stories.
Well, isn't Karachi though? Isn't Karachi a big port city?
It is. It is.
So you'd think that that port cities. Even here in the United States, have
Mhm.
the habit of attracting unsavoriness, I guess.
I don't know what it is over there. It's just that even I think politics has most of the influence on all this shit. Every political party in Pakistan. Okay. I'll give you just one small example, right? How fucked up our political system is. So we are all suffering from corona. We are all suffering from lockdown, smart lockdown, and this and that and whatnot, right?
Hmm.
Now, currently, what's happening in Pakistan is that um, these political parties, they're like, oh, we're gonna do something called a jalsa, which is basically like an event, right? Where they're gonna call what do you call that? I'm sorry. I'm a bit sleepy as well because I've been up for like almost 20 hours. So I'm gonna lose a couple of words, right?
Jesus.
So so what do you call it? So they're doing this event where they're calling all their supporters to come and join them, while they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna be talking shit about the president, and everyone's gonna
Like
just
a
attend it.
rally.
It's like a political rally.
Rally. Thank you so much. Political rally. That's what I wanted to say. So the government has asked them to, I mean, if you want to do something like that, sure, sure. Like we have democracy, right? So go ahead, do it, but don't do it publicly. Don't ask people to gather around, and nobody is following um the SOPs, where
Mm.
the guidelines that keep safe distance and social distancing and whatnot. So they're not doing that, and it's more like a Corona fest. And right now we have the second wave in Pakistan, and the president of Pakistan, um, Imran Khan, he is doing his level best to actually control it, and he did. He controlled it like really, really well. Imagine a third world country. I mean, it's not a. I mean, let's be real, right? We are a third world country, and we're really thriving, and we're really trying to get better.
Mm.
So Imran Khan is the only president who doesn't care about money for himself.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest of our past presidents, except for President Musharraf, who was an army general. So except for him, everyone else, they became either the prime minister or the president of Pakistan. They all looted, literally, like billions and billions of rupees, right? And we are in we're in deep shit. We're in debt. I mean, one real is 44 rupees, so $1 to BKR is okay. So imagine 160 rupees is $1.
Mm-hmm.
That's not cool. In Saudi Arabia, it's I remember the pact they did in, I think, back in 1960s or something. When they formed Saudi Aramco, they had a pact that, okay, we're gonna fix the price of Saudi Riyal to 3.75. So $1 is 3.75 Riyal, and that is the main reason why their economy is solid. If the dollar goes up, they go up. If the dollar goes down, they go down, right? And all the dealing is done in dollars, so it works both ways. I mean, both of them are happy. But in Pakistan's case, what's happening is that to support your economy, you take loans, and when you take loans, you're unable to pay it back because of our corrupt political leaders. When they're doing their term, when they're actually when they're in power, they don't do anything for Pakistan. What they do is they're gonna make a couple of roads. They're gonna maybe start something on the railway or something small, something which doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to anyone who is mildly educated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds a lot like U.S. politics too, my friend.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what is the main reason behind a country going down? It's the educational system. If you educate each and every person, just imagine this, okay? Let's say all three of us, we are supporting three different political parties, right?
Mm-hmm.
If any of our leaders, my leader, or your leader, if they ask us to come out and join the rally, if we are mildly, if we're like let's even if we have just common sense, we wouldn't go out, right?
Well,
We would avoid it.
you're talking. I guess you'd say if there were normal people, probably, but like I would probably go, and Darian would probably go, because we're kind of like, fuck that other party, or fuck the government. That's
Right.
And,
kind
and
of
also, I personally don't think Corona is as scary as
I don't
they're
either.
making it
I don't
out
either.
to be.
So I would go. But so anyway, we wouldn't go because we're somewhat educated, but we'll go with that. But I'm letting you know, we're kind of like, we're these kind of guys. We're like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, right?
Yeah, but okay. What about the numbers? The way they're going high, the number of people who are dying. What about them? I mean,
So to break away
you
from
went-
the main,
We could turn this into like a
Yeah.
coronavirus thing and get banned for misinformation because I'm gonna like drop some bombs on this stuff.
okay.
My belief is that, I mean, yes, it's a real virus, obviously. Yes,
Right.
it'll make you sick. I don't think the risk of dying is any more than a bad, the bad colds and bad flus. Just like other flus and things like that, they have the same type of risk of dying. I think the numbers are elevated. Obviously, they make a joke about, well, if you don't test, then you get no new cases. Yeah, obviously that's right.
Yeah.
But the way they're testing with the number of cycles will produce false positives so many times. You can take somebody who is not sick, run that test, run it 30 or 40 cycles, and come up with a positive result to fluff your numbers. The fact in the United States, anyway, in the fact that in the United States, if you are a hospital and you get a coronavirus patient and who's on Medicare or whatever, you'll get paid a lot more money. That's encouragement to game that system.
Something else I want to point out when he's done.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say two things. So, when you look at the cases, right? So initially, when any new disease happens, like when Ebola happens, when AIDS happens, when any new virus or something happens, initially, a lot of people are going to die. They are. In some cases we get a vaccine, in some cases we get a cure, but in most cases, like if not all cases, there's treatment for it. So initially when this thing happens, it was just like what the fuck BBQ kind of thing. It was like, what is this? It's killing people. And then as the science comes out, we learn how to aggressively treat it. And
to interject on that though, it wasn't the coronavirus killing people, it was the comorbidities.
Sure.
It was agitating things.
Right. So you basically you had a lot of bad decisions on our government officials' part. Like, oh, let's just put all the bad sick people in with the old people, and voila, you have more cases and you have more deaths. So initially, before you understand, like he said, a lot of it is comorbidity. Before you understand the science of it, like, okay, is it after a month you don't have enough evidence. After 2 months you don't. So after 11 months of this shit, there's enough empirical evidence that you could say, well, if you're not sick, period, and you're from the age of 0 to the age of mid 30s, this is your death rate. And I don't like that. And I don't like this because I brought this up with a medical professional that we converse with from time to time. But
do that air quotes again around.
Yeah,
he's not a professional. He's a chump.
Well, whatever. But I mean, he may watch it, and he may say some shit. But whatever. But my point is like when we have our empirical evidence, we have our data per se. Is like our data is skewed because the data that we're given is data worldwide. So obviously, if I live in like fucking Timbuktu, where there's really no medical facilities, then obviously, if somebody gets the virus and it can't be aggressively treated because there's no first world country hospital there, the death rates will be higher. Okay, so you have that. You have all of the lumped numbers being spit at all Americans, like we all live in Sudan, or we all live in Tunisia, or we all live in fucking nowhere Russia, which isn't the case. Like, we really need to just like play. If we're gonna play numbers, we need to play numbers. We should go, okay, if you live in the United States and you're between the age of 0 and the age of 50, your chances of dying are 2%. As long as soon as you're identified as having it, you are aggressively treated. Now, if you're between the ages of 0 and 50 and you have diabetes, or you have asthma, or you have cancer or something of that nature, obviously the rate of death increases. So you have like the numbers game when it comes to, am I scared? Not really, because I stood about the same chance of getting the flu going to school and dying as I do of getting the coronavirus and dying. So it doesn't scare me because obviously, like, I had a 2% chance of dying from the flu from the age of 6 to the age of 18 while I was going to school, and I have the same chance of dying from coronavirus. The other thing is, yes, the cases will go up, and why will they go up? Because the virus will spread, and it's inevitable. It will always spread. Like unless you're gonna lock down your country until the end of time, and you're not gonna let anybody in your country. Every shipment that comes to your country, every box from Amazon is going to be sitting in quarantine or whatever. It's going to take you 2 months to get a fucking computer or whatever you order because you're just going to lock it down. Like that is no way for anybody to live. The cases will go up, and eventually at some point it will. It sucks to say, but it will burn out. People will die, just like people get cancer and people die. I mean, it's not spread the same as cancer. But, I mean, people still die of breast cancer. People still die of pancreatic cancer. People still die of diabetes and heart disease is still the leading killer out of diseases. I mean, people still die driving cars. People still die with drugs. So people are going to die. But the question is, and that is the main question that I ask people, and Darian asks people too, is like, is the fact that you're willing to give away your freedom for a little bit of security, is that really worth it? Are you just going to surrender what you do in life? Do you like getting up and hiking in the woods? Do you like going to the store and buying fresh fruit? Like, what do you like doing? What do you value? If you're a guy that just wants to sit on the computer all fucking day, then fine, you do that. But the rest of us have jobs to do. The rest of us have lives to live. So... we agree it is a deadly virus, but it is deadly dependent on your factors as far as your age and your health, and it's also dependent on where you are. So obviously, if you live somewhere where there's not a lot of advanced medical care, yes, you're at a higher risk. But if you live in the U.S. and you're healthy, then there's really, really no fucking reason to be scared of the coronavirus, especially now that there's like 4 vaccines in the mix, just waiting to get dispersed. Like, I mean, really, what is there to fear but fear itself? You know what I mean?
That's interesting. I think there is a huge cultural difference in here. Let me explain how.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So
Well, one more thing I want to interject on that. I see additional nefarious purposes behind it. This vaccine that they're rushing out, I don't think it's going to do much of any good. And I think it's going to be one of those things that turns out to be like a yearly shot you got to get, just like the flu shot. I also think that the reason they're doing it and quote unquote wasting time or bothering with it is because there is so much money put into the fear. There's so much money to be made capitalizing on the fear that's been propagated by the governments about this. And the common cold is a coronavirus. If you get just the common cold, you've got coronavirus. And that can flag those tests.
That's also true.
So there's and if there was any money to be made in eradicating the common cold, it would have been done years ago.
The difference between a new virus and an existing virus is that once you have the vaccine, it's under control. It's curable, or the chances of someone dying becomes like extremely low, right? So,
but that's this year's vaccine.
But
then you got to pay another
mutates.
$20 next year, and then another $20 the next year, and another $20 the next year. And think of how many billions of people have to take. This is a bazillion-dollar marketing stunt. I don't want to call it a marketing stunt. That does diminish the actual deaths and people. It's $1 billion.
I personally know 4 people close to me who died of corona, and I shouldn't say the reason they died was this, but one of the factors that that made I don't know how to say this, but one of the reasons why they died was because they didn't take it seriously.
Mm.
And when they had, when they started feeling feverish, and when they were having a little bit of difficulty breathing, they didn't take it seriously. They had diabetes. One
Mm.
of them had heart disease,
Mm.
and then they went to ventilator, and then they, like, 15 days on ventilator, or a week on ventilator, and then they passed away.
Mm.
So it is there. It is killing people. Of course, we know that the difference between your point of view and my point of view is that I'm not scared for myself. This is where I was coming with the whole cultural difference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you turn 18, you move out, right? You start your life, and then you live your own life, and then you have your own thing going on. You don't have um um like, you don't live with your family, you don't live with your parents, right? In here, in Middle East, we majority of the people, they live with their parents. I am married. I have a sister. She's unmarried, and she's living with me as well. And my mom, she lives with me as well, right? So when it comes to Corona, for example,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that I'm not worried about myself, or even my wife or my sister. I'm worried about my mom. Similarly, in every household over here, everyone is worried about their elders. And whoever isn't living with elderly people, they're fine with it. They're roaming around, they're going out, they're watching movies, they're doing everything. So this is one major difference when it comes to taking care of how I can be the carrier. I can go out and carry it home and then infect other people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I know, recently, this happened, that they have been super careful, but the okay, we have this thing that my friend's parents, I'm gonna call them uncle and auntie, even though they're not my relative. They're my friend's mother and father, right? So I call them uncle and auntie. This is how we pay respect to our elder. So anyone you see in the market, anyone you see outside. So if you want to call them, so you don't just say hey, you say hey uncle or hey auntie, can you help me? Or when you're communicating with someone, this is how we address people. So I'm gonna call them uncle and auntie, right?
Hmm.
So the uncle, he met someone, and he didn't take the precautions of, in Saudi Arabia, mask is mandatory. If you're not wearing it, and if you're non-Saudi, or if you're an expatriate, you will be fined, and then you will be expelled from the country. This is how strict they are with the whole mask, right? And for the Saudis, it's of course it's mandatory for them as well. I think they have jail time, and they have hefty fine for not wearing a mask outside. Like, the moment you're leaving your house, you're supposed to wear your mask. So I was talking about this uncle. So he met someone, and then he contracted the virus. He had, I think he had flu initially. He didn't get it tested, but he infected his whole family, his daughter's whole family. The daughter, she's married, so her husband got affected. Her husband's family got affected,
Hmm.
and initially the guy who was, I shouldn't say responsible for it, but through which it got spread, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was hospitalized, and the I think even my friend's father, the other friend's father, because I know the husband and wife, both of them, right? So the guy, his father, I think he had severe issues as well because of it. So my point is, people are taking care of this, even if it's not going to affect them. Even if I'm the reason behind someone's, like, if I could, I'm the reason, I'm the carrier who would spread it somewhere else, I would take precaution for it. I wouldn't until unless it's completely under control. Right now, our the number of cases has gone down. Alhamdulillah, everyone's really happy about it. All malls and everything is open over here. There are no more. The only thing that the government is asking is to, when you're going out, keep social distancing and keep wearing the mask. The reason behind the way numbers are going like really fast, the way it's dipping down, is because of these SOPs that they had a lockdown. They had really extreme lockdown. Imagine, you know how we take religious events very seriously. We have two events, right? One is Eid, which is like Christmas, right? And then we have another Eid, which is again like Christmas or Thanksgiving, right? We have the whole feast and everything, so you can call it more like Thanksgiving. So even though we take it very seriously, and that is the day when you're supposed to go and meet your family and friends, and it's we have it's a holiday. It's a 3-day holiday.
Now, can I pause you? Is
Sure.
which religion is this though? Because
Islam.
Islam.
Yeah.
Okay, so just another question, like Ramadan and like making the Mecca, that you wouldn't
After
put that
Ramadan, yes, that one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay,
Right
because
after
that's what I thought one of your top two holidays was like Ramadan was.
One is right after Ramadan, and the other one is on Hajj. You know the Hajj one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have one on Hajj and one right after Ramadan.
Okay.
So
pretty big.
So right after Ramadan, that's the one that people celebrate the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have been fasting the whole month and everything, and that's the day
Mm-hmm.
when you get back to your normal routine. So that's our Eid, that's our Christmas, you can say. So the government of Saudi Arabia, they did this amazing thing, because that was the peak moment when it would spread. They locked the whole country down for 3 days. 3 days straight, they locked it down. Even though the government takes it very seriously, all religious events very seriously, but when it comes to lives of people, you take every measure to save it. Every measure. This is my even personally for me, this is my opinion when it comes to, yeah, it's not going to affect me, but if it's going to affect someone else, I would avoid it.
So I got to
personally avoid it.
I understand based on how you live. You live with your folks, and other people live with their folks. Okay?
Right.
So let me ask you this. If you lived in the US, and you could practice any religion you want.
Right.
You could be agnostic or atheist, right?
Right.
So if you lived by yourself, so you had no one to come home and infect.
Right.
I mean, what do you feel like? And once again, like you're completely American. You are American. You have all these rights, probably a little bit more rights than you do in Saudi Arabia or even Pakistan. Right. Like the government, two parts. You have the government telling you that you need to lock down. You can't celebrate Christmas, or you said they even locked down completely. So it wasn't even that you couldn't celebrate Christmas with people. It was that, like, masks everywhere, lockdown, weeks on end. And
when I say lockdown, it means you can't leave the house at all.
Right,
you cannot,
right.
You can't even roam outside on the street.
Right. And so I want you to imagine, right? So this is I think this is where I get into it with some of my other fellow Americans, is that, like, the fact that I do what I do is okay as long as it doesn't infringe on you, right? And that is like the, I don't want to say doctrine, but essentially that's like the unspoken word. It's like I can do whatever I want to do as long as it doesn't infringe on you, right?
Right.
So if I'm somebody that's over the age of 60, or I know I have heart disease, and I fear for my life, if I do, because, Americans still do some pretty stupid shit. They will still get in a car and drive 90 miles an hour down the road and, drunk or not drunk. Right. Or they will They will parachute skydive out of a plane, or they'll bungee cord. We'll do some stupid shit. I know you've seen X Games before. Like, we do stupid shit because we can, and maybe we want to. My biggest thing with this is that, okay, if my grandmother was living with me, or, you know, somebody, you know, my wife was living with me, and maybe she had heart disease or something, like, yeah, I would definitely be careful about what I'm doing, you know.
Right.
But if I live by myself and I choose to go outside and do whatever, or I choose to go to the store, that should be my choice. And everybody else, regardless of what, you know, if you're the one that's living at home with your parents, you know, and they're at risk, that's your choice to go out and hang out where I'm hanging out. So to me, it seems unfair, and this is my culture. It seems to me unfair that I should have to sit in my house and I should have to do whatever the government tells me to do, even though it's very unconstitutional. I should obey the government and not enjoy my life because you don't know how to protect your family, essentially. You know, like, essentially, you know that if you live with people that are at risk, then you need to stay the fuck home. You need to, or you need to social distance and wear a mask everywhere you go. Now, me, I will only social distance where I can. I mean, I'm not really aware, like, but if I go to a store and it says put a mask on, I put a mask on. I don't argue with it because I want to buy groceries there, and the store has the right to tell me what to wear. If I don't like it, I go to another store. That's how it works.
Right.
So, but for you to tell me that I can't go to a restaurant after 9 p.m. because coronavirus magically comes out after 9 p.m. or that I have to be in my house by 10 p.m. Like, that's where I draw the line, because you should be smart enough as an adult to know that whoever the fuck is living in your household is going to get the coronavirus and probably fucking die. So you need to make better decisions with your life. I can do what I choose to please because there's nobody in my house. There's some cats, you know, that's it, right? You know, there's you know, the woman living in the house, and she's fine, you know. She's not at risk. In fact, I'm more at risk than she is because I have asthma. But I mean, I really don't care. Like, I've been getting sinus infections, and I've had the flu twice, you know, and so it doesn't bother me. It's like, whatever, I'll get over it. And if I don't, I don't. Fuck it. It seems to me that, and this, I think this is what bothers me the most. What bothers me the most is when these people make up all these rules and they say it's based off science. And for one, it's not based off of science, because they've said, well, okay, well, if everybody was wearing a mask,
they've already proven that masks don't work the way that they've been trying to sell.
Exactly. The social distancing isn't working, and the masks aren't working, because if they were, everywhere you fucking go, every store you go to, you have to wear a mask. And there is a line outside these stores because they're only going to let 25 people in the store. But yet there's still spikes in COVID, so it's not working. But they keep telling you to do it, and they keep locking you down. But then there's a catch. There's more. These same people are out there in public eating at restaurants after 9 p.m., not wearing masks, and in close areas with other people. So the people that are, and we're talking about governors, and we're also talking about the senators and the representatives. They are the ones,
and the lobbyists.
They are the ones disobeying the rules, telling us that we need to fucking sacrifice our lives, our liberties, our freedoms, our right to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but they're doing it too. And then, they jump on the TV and they're like, well, I fucked up, I'm sorry. And they don't even say that, but that's what they're really saying. And it's like, no, dude, no, fuck you. Like, that's what, I'm saying, that's me and Darian. We're just like, you know what? Look, all right, I really need some bread, so I'm going to Walmart. They're going to tell me to wear a mask. I'll wear a mask. Fuck it. I really want some bread. Okay, cool. But, you can't go to a restaurant after fucking 9 p.m.? Like, I'm sorry. I don't feel like... I've been cooking every fucking day of the week. I'd like to go to a restaurant. The woman doesn't get home until 7. I'm going to a restaurant. How dare you fucking tell me to do this? And I'm watching people that... Well, I didn't elect him. Somebody elected him. and they're telling me all these, and yet there's pictures of them getting haircuts without a mask, and out there at lunch and dinner and with their families, and it's like, so is this coronavirus? Does it only attack like libertarians or conservatives, or only attacks people after 9 p.m., or it only attacks like this is the most woke virus ever. I don't know if you're familiar with the term woke.
See, my thing on that whole thing is, you had mentioned, your people that you were close with that have passed, and I want to preface everything I say with a caveat that I'm not trying to be insensitive. But you also mentioned comorbidities. That one had diabetes, one had heart disease, and that's what's doing the killing, but it's being attributed to coronavirus because it's easier. Okay, well, yes, those issues that would have killed them at some point were agitated by coronavirus.
Right.
So it could have shaved a couple years off their life. What were the ages of these people, if I may ask?
58, I know one, and rest of them I don't know. I'm not sure, but definitely between 50 and 60.
Okay, so 60 is like the numbers that I've seen, where it's, if you're over 60, you then have, I think, a 2% chance of dying from it. And then below that is like 99.9% survival rate, and in certain areas it's even less, like 99.998 or something like that.
Right.
So it's the comorbidities that are doing the real killing. Something Jake had mentioned is, yes, our culture is different, but I understand what you're saying about when working with people, or you have people you care about that are immunocompromised or in that at-risk category. Take extra precautions. When this whole thing started and we really didn't know anything about it, and I didn't know anything about it, we took those precautions. We pretty much self-quarantined because we were helping out some of our neighbors who, one was in the middle of cancer treatment and one was about to go into it, and that basically kills your immune system. So because we were going to be interacting with them, we were going to do everything we possibly could to not expose ourselves to something that we could bring to them. So I get that. So we voluntarily chose to do that. It's when the government steps up and says, no, you are no longer allowed to go out and visit with your friends. You're not allowed to go to the public park that you're paying taxes for under threat of violence. You're no longer allowed to, visit your parents or grandparents in nursing homes in these facilities. I just saw a video where somebody was getting arrested because they were trying to give their grandparents a hug or something like that, their grandmother a hug. They couldn't allow that one-on-one contact, but 10 officers piling on this one guy is A-okay. So it's not about the virus anymore. It's about control. So I'm
But
falling further. Go ahead.
I have a question though. Sorry for intruding. One question. If this was permanent, I want to understand how the thought process goes. So if something like this is permanent, if they're saying that throughout the whole life, from now and onwards, this is how it's gonna stay. So I would be in your position. I would be like, you know what? I mean, I don't have the right to live my life. What the hell, right? But if they're doing this temporarily to understand and to know, and nobody knew, right? When Corona was spreading, nobody knew how it's gonna, like, it was spreading fast, really, really fast, and that's what scared the whole world. And then people started dying, and then they figured it out that, okay, not everyone is dying, only the people with certain sickness, they're the ones who are dying. So now we understand it more, and we have seen it with our own eyes that literally every person on left and right is getting infected, and everyone is getting well. They're not even getting hospitalized or anything. They stay home. They they do the self quarantine and everything, and they're back to normal. The most they're gonna get is maybe mild fever and coughing, I guess, and that's it. My I forgot my question. Okay, my question was, yeah, coming back to it, my question was if the government is doing this, okay, the government is doing this not because of you, like you as an individual, because, okay, you're a smart person, you understand, but there are a lot of people out there who are stupid. So rather than just picking, it's really hard to pick the stupid people out and tell them to stay home. It's better to just have the whole lockdown altogether and try to reduce the number of infectees. You know what I mean? So why does this bother you?
Because, like Jake pointed out, if somebody is sick or is has if somebody is immunocompromised or is in an at-risk group, then they can stay home. And the argument being presented to us is, well, they should be able to live their lives too. And yeah, I agree. And they need to then assess the risk for themselves and decide for themselves if they feel is worth going to the grocery store where people aren't being required to wear masks, or to take a flight on a plane where you're going to be sitting, in a cooped up box for 3 hours with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the direction I'm coming from. If I start, if I'm regularly helping out my neighbors again, and they're suddenly having issues again and whatnot. Well, one of them passed, not coronavirus related.
Right.
So, but if something like that, and I'm in that situation again, I'll again take go ahead and go through those steps and so on. But aside from that, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that big a deal. Personally, I look at it and think, if I get it, it's going to be a bad cold. It's going to suck, and I'll be fine in a couple days.
And I will say, just to segue off of that, is like I go to the gym sometimes, right? Sometimes, not a lot. Right. I don't abuse that privilege, but there's a lot of friends I have in there. So there's like a 70-something-year-old guy that's been fighting cancer for 20-something years. So if I go early in the morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning, I'll see him. And I remember the first time I saw him after all this bullshit, I was like, "Yo, dude, how are you? You're alive." I was scared, and he told me the same thing. This other guy who's like 65. So this guy's like 70-something, fighting cancer for 20 plus years. And this other guy's like 65, and it's just like, dude, I just want to live my life. And I think that's the main difference, between like this culture and some other cultures, is that Americans, first of all, we come from a long line of descendants of like the middle finger. I mean, you want to look at England, we beat England twice, right? And we beat the Germans twice and the Japanese once. Fuck you, because freedom, democracy, and we feel that everybody should have God-given unalienable rights. That doesn't work in a lot of different countries, but that's what we want. We want everybody to have the right to speech, the right to defend themselves, the right to vote. We want everybody to have that. But you're talking to Americans that have been locked down, and they enjoy going to the gym, spending an hour and a half working out, feeling good about themselves, looking good, getting that dopamine rush. All that stuff that they get, and they weren't getting it, and they're locked down, and they're like, risk assessment, because that's what happens when here's the thing is, like, people, you do a risk assessment every day. You just don't realize it because it's integrated in your thought process, right? So you have a car and you drive to work. Well, your risk assessment, if you're a smart, responsible adult, is I'm gonna get the oil change, I'm gonna get the tires. And if you don't, then you increase your chance of something bad. Like, I can't afford tires, or I don't want to spend money on tires, or I don't want to tune up my car, or or you get on a plane, and not even coronavirus. You know that, if something happens in the plane, it's going to be catastrophic. Like there's nothing you can fucking do. Like if you get hijacked, there's very little you can do. If the plane has some engine failure, there's nothing, but you take the risk. You take the responsibility. Just like you get in the car, you do what you can. You make sure you maintenance your car. You make sure, you got tires. You make sure you get tune-ups. Just like you get on the internet, every time you get on the internet, you maybe get an antivirus, or maybe you get some there's risk into everything you do as an adult. When you go to Amazon and you shop, I could steal your credit card, but you take that chance. But the whole point of being American is giving as much choice to the person and not leaving it up to the government. And that's where the disconnect is we don't need the government choosing shit for us. What we need the government to do... Oh, go ahead.
I think that's a big part of it, too, is for Americans, we have our Constitution that guarantees us our rights. And historically, whenever the government's infringed on those rights, they've never, we need to do this as an emergency type of measure, type of thing. Oh, we've got this, gun violence, we need to restrict guns. The government doesn't, at least our government, does not give back those rights. So from that perspective, if we're going to be going down that whole route of papers please anytime we leave our neighborhoods to go to a grocery store or something, that's not acceptable to me. I mean, it's there's always been that saying, and I can't remember who said it first, but never let a crisis go to waste. And I think that's what happened. I kind of lean towards that coronavirus. I don't want to say it was planned. I won't go that far. But I definitely think that once that happened, it was immediately jumped on as to push these different agendas. They've got the Agenda 21. It's a UN program to transform our world. I don't know if you pay attention to American or Western media much, but there's a lot of talk about the Great Reset and the same catchphrase, build back better, used in England, France, Canada. All these things,
build back better.
The Great Reset.
It's the Biden slogan too, coincidentally.
And
what is the Great Reset?
It is essentially the implementing the Green New Deal and putting a globalist government, globalist control over the world versus individual nations.
One central government, one currency. Basically everybody is the same as far as. But we're getting way off topic here.
And it boils down to socialism. I told you, man, you don't want me to go down this rabbit hole.
Fucking.
I want to hear more about what it was.
Arabia
and Pakistan.
Yeah, we get it back on set. So.
I have one question though. I have one small question though.
Oh shoot.
Okay. So. I'm trying to collect my words together to ask it. So, okay, definitely killing someone is bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it depends.
Murder. It doesn't.
Murder,
even
right?
if it's
murder. So.
Oh, okay,
if
murder.
You kill someone slowly, if you're killing someone slowly.
Oh shit.
Or if you're killing someone, do you see where I'm going with this?
Well, this is an asshole question. This is exactly. So we're gonna give you an asshole question, but at the end. We'll let you give us that same asshole question, okay?
No, let's hear this question.
But I'm talking about Corona, basically. That when you're not following, when you're saying that you don't want to follow the lockdown or you don't want to follow the SOPs, basically, you could be the carrier, and because of you, someone could die. And if the government is taking these precautions and okay, forget about the government, okay? Let's talk about us.
Yes, because that's what it should be. But
right.
Let me ask you this though before you. So, I don't understand the government that's my biggest thing is I don't understand how your government is. So when you're talking about the government, because you did talk about Pakistan and now you're talking about Saudi Arabia. So for which country are we going to talk about? Are we going to be talking about like
Saudi Arabia?
Okay,
Because
so
I'm here. I went through it. So.
well, because I'm not going to ask him both questions on both governments, but like so the Saudi Arabia government, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that government, is that government ruled? It's by elected officials, like people elect. No. So it's not
Monarchy.
Right. It's a monarchy, correct?
Yeah.
So it's a lot different than like whereas Pakistan is actually a democracy.
Yep.
Correct. So so when we talk about Pakistan, it's a monarchy. So dude has a kid, then the kid takes over dude's spot when the dude dies, and then that guy has a kid.
Or that's Saudi Arabia, not in Pakistan.
Correct. So we're going to talk about Saudi Arabia. So you're talking about if a monarchy. So a monarchy, the guy has absolute power. So if he says you sneeze, you go to jail, then you go to jail. There's no questions about it. There's no questions, right? And
not at all.
And then the second thing I was going to ask you is when it comes to your current monarch, whoever that king is right now or that queen, because I would assume that if the king only had daughters and the king died, then the queen would be the queen until one of the daughters was old enough to take the throne, right? Essentially.
I have never seen a queen.
Okay. So we'll just assume they're all boys. All right.
Yeah.
So that being said, the current monarch, does that monarch tend to rule based on Islam, or does it tend to rule based on something else? Like
it's his choice, honestly.
Well, I'm saying the current one. So does the current one?
Mm-hmm. He's more liberal. He is. He's changing a lot of things over here. People tend to mix. When I say people, it could be even king and prince and whatever. Us as Muslims, right? Anyone who is practicing Islam.
Correct.
We have this huge issue of mixing culture with Islam, and then teaching our kids that. I mean, we don't draw that fine line where Islam ends and culture begins. So what ends up happening is that we tend to grow up believing that this cultural thing is basically Islamic. For example, black abaya, the black it's like an overcoat that women they wear, black color, right? It was never supposed to be black. It's a cultural thing that people do, wearing a black coat. Women covering themselves with a black cloth. That's cultural. That has nothing to do with Islam. The only thing Islam says is that, like, don't look vulgar. That's it. You're not supposed to look vulgar. That's it. That's all it says. I mean, people covering their faces. Nowhere it says you are supposed to cover your face. That's not Islam. That's culture.
Right.
But what happens is that because it's so deeply present in our roots that we end up mixing it with Islam. I mean, imagine our grand mosque, right, in Mecca. When you're going there to perform to perform Umrah, the ritual, right? You are not supposed to cover your face. Like, you are not supposed to do it because that's not the correct way to do it. You're not supposed to cover your face, but people do it, right? Not over there, but when they're going to leave the place, they're going to cover their face. So when they're covering their face, that's their culture, that's their personal preference that they want to do it that way. Otherwise,
is that part of what we're told here in the United States that's Sharia law? Is that part then a melding of the cultural rules and Islamic rules?
I was having this debate with someone that where did Sharia law come from? What is Sharia law? Where is it written in? There are two things that we follow, right? The Quran, the holy book, and we have the lifestyle or the living. You can say like a living a guidance from our prophet.
Yeah,
right?
Muhammad.
So we believe in So we believe in Quran because of him. Like, he's the one who taught us that, right? So where is this Sharia law? Where is this written? Like, who gave these commands that you're supposed to follow it this way or run your country this way. There's a huge difference between how you're supposed to personally live your life, and there's a huge difference between asking someone else to do something, me forcing you to do something. So Islam is all about how you live your life, not how you dictate someone else to live their lives.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of that is the same with any organized religion, where it is about control.
Yep.
Well, I'm not gonna say it's about control. I wouldn't say that, but that's what you would say.
Absolutely about control. I mean, Christianity was, the formalized Christianity and things like that were all about controlling the masses, the unwashed masses. And, the Council of Nicaea put the books of the Bible together and picked out what they're going to include, so they could basically preach to the people and to be good citizens. So it's, I think, I've been opposed to organized religion for a long, long time. I don't fault anybody who is religious, and it is what it is. I just think organized religion is about control versus true spirituality and becoming closer to God or Allah or whichever archetype one is worshiping.
Well, I was going to say...
And I will say I got a lot of admiration for the Islamic traditions. I don't know how much Jake told you about me. I was mortician and funeral director for a number of years, and the Islamic services that I've worked with are beautiful. Where like the families and close friends of the men would come in, and of course that's the only ones I was able to participate in, but would come in and would wash the body themselves and place in the casket, and they have these rituals, and I think it's beautiful, and I think there's a lot of importance to keeping these types of rituals alive, and that's going away in American culture.
I was going to say two things. One was off the last thing we talked about. So when you're talking about like Sharia kind of thing, like you understand like with any major religion, there's going to be like sects of that religion. So you have like Christianity. Christianity is so broad. Like I'm not saying that like Islam isn't, but like when you look at Christianity, you have Jehovah's Witness. Well, not Jehovah's Witness. You have Catholics. You have Baptists. You have Methodists. You have Mormons. You have so many different people that believe in Christianity. Essentially, Christianity is followers of Christ. So they believe that Jesus Christ is essentially the deity, right? And then you have Judaism. Right. And then I think I can compare Judaism a lot closer to Islam. Because like when we talk about Islam, basically you have like two major sects, which is you have Sunnis and Shiites, right? And
oh no, we have so many more. Many.
If you have many more, I don't know about them, but I'll say the two that I do know, the two that are the most prominent. Like when you hear about
these are the ones which hit the mainstream media.
Right. So for example, like if I read the Quran. And I read it. We're talking about how women should dress, right? Because that's the example you gave. So maybe I read that it should be solemn and it should be respectful. And maybe I see how Western culture sees what's solemn. So we go to funerals and we dress in black because that's respectful and that's solemn. Women wear black dresses. They wear black veils. So maybe I perceive that to be. The woman should be solemn and respectful, and therefore she should be in black. But then you maybe, and it's more than that, but we'll just say something simple. You see something else where it's maybe that it doesn't matter as long as you're wearing the correct clothing. And the correct clothing is, the dress, covers all the way down to, her over her ankles and something covering her face. And then, we can go even further, is that when you're that certain part of the certain part you were talking about was where her face is supposed to be uncovered. which you said, according to the Quran is what's supposed to. But the thing is like it's all open to. So you guys essentially believe in Muhammad and you believe in the Quran, but you guys have different interpretations. And I don't know who's right and I don't know who's wrong. But that's essentially where you get different versions of Judaism. You have like different versions of Catholicism or Christianity. And so something else I wanted to tell you is so based off of that, what I'm saying is the way I see that is you just kind of have to look at it yourself. You have to be an adult, and that's the biggest thing me and Darian say is you have to be an adult, you have to read it, you have to do a little bit of research, and you have to make your own decision. Because at the end of the day, if you choose to be part of it, because, you could come up, because Darian came up very religious, and I came up very religious. But when you get to that age, you have to sit down and look at what you were taught or look at what you were told to believe. And you have to decide, does that make sense to you? And if it does, like how much sense does it make to you? Because that's normal. Like we're humans. We should essentially question everything. We should wonder why the sun does what it does. Why does the government do what it does? Why do people do what they do? If you go about your life never questioning anything, then you're the kind of person that when the government says stay in your home, you're like, okay. And I'm the guy that's like, why am I staying in my home? Well, because you're going to get someone else sick. And it's like, well, they can stay in their home. I'm going to go outside and, shoot hoops at the court in the park. That's what I'm going to do because that's what I've always done. And if I get sick and I die, there's no one here that's going to get sick and die. That's my choice. Because
are we back to talking about Corona again?
Well, no, back on the religion, but now the second part was when you were talking about like how things came to be, and I think the biggest disconnect is when I try to talk with other people, not you, not Darian. Darian's been hanging around with me long enough; he knows how I think. But essentially, when you
5-year-old.
Oh my gosh, that's another day for that. But when you look at like Islam and when you look at it and I look at it, it's a little different. But maybe I can say something that you can see where I'm coming from. When I look at countries in the modern era that they're either Judaism or they're Christianity, like their governments are pretty liberal. As in, like the religion no longer runs the government.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you look back 200, 300, 400 years, there were countries where the Pope had like so much control over the country, and it should have been that way, right? Like you shouldn't force anybody to worship a god that they don't want to worship. Like that's their choice. Even if you look at Christianity, even if you look at Judaism, it's all about free agency. You choose whether or not you want to go to heaven or hell. If you think there's a heaven or hell. So we're at a point where, like...
See, I want to disagree with you there, though. That Christianity, the formalized Christianity, if you get down to the nitty-gritty and read the Bible for yourself and forge your own path, that's different, the spirituality of it. But Christianity was always about centralizing power. And the Catholics and the Catholicism was giving power to the Pope. Who was the first Protestant church was whatever king that was, or maybe it was King James, the King James edition. I don't recall. I'd have to look that up. But it was basically he was the head of the church. So if you were a Christian, he was the head of the church. So you got to listen to him, kind of thing. So
right,
really,
but if you research, like if you look at Christianity now, like compared to what it was, because we can all agree that it was corrupt. But I'm saying now, if you go to most churches, it's a lot about like free agency. It's about you have a choice to make. Do you want to tithe or not tithe? Do you want to sin or do you not want to sin? If you sin, do you want to repent? Like there's a lot of choices that you have to make, right? Whether you make them or not, that's you. But that's nowadays. And where I was going with that is like when you look at Islam, and I say me as a knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing, Westerner, a lot of the countries that practice Islam, and I say a lot, like I said, I don't know too much, but a lot of them are ruled by Islam. Like, they're not ruled by democracy. democracy as in like the people that don't want shit to do with religion have a voice. So it's the only people that have a say in how the government is run is either the one chosen one or all the people that believe in the religion, which is how it used to be, which the West has moved, like a lot of the Western countries have moved past that. But like when you look at like a lot of the Islam countries and you look at how they rule, and it's like they are very in their religion, which is important. But most importantly, what drives politics in the Western countries, and more so in your country, because you're saying that your monarch is very liberal, and the monarch has complete control, is culture. Culture drives politics. If we decide here in America, if there's enough of a hubbub about something, the people that we elected to represent us will vote to make that a law. And then we have a gun held to our head saying, so next election cycle, maybe we have a bunch of Democrats voted into office, and there's enough people that are just saying, we want mask mandates. And then the next thing you know, like, I didn't vote for that motherfucker. Darian sure as hell didn't vote for that motherfucker. And now we have to wear masks everywhere we fucking go, even when we're like fucking our own wives. And that's how silly it is. But that's essentially in Western culture. The culture drives the politics. And then, of course, the politics makes the laws that puts a gun to your head and says you will do what we say or you will suffer the consequences. That's essentially how it boils down. So culture... What's that?
The majority voted for it.
Yeah, in a sense, but basically, just think of culture drives politics. People don't realize that. Like, if you would have looked at us, 50 years ago, like there weren't any civil rights. Like the blacks in this country didn't have as much as the whites, and there was enough protesting. There was enough people that got behind the protesting that the politicians didn't have a choice, and so now. Black people have rights. And I'm not saying that's a great reason for how politics drives culture. But when culture goes into the shithole, when watching Cardi B, WAP is how your 14-year-old is learning about women's reproductive organs, and like that is a bad cult. At some point we like I don't know, man. I hope it's later than sooner, but culture drives politics.
Call that being an infidel.
Well, and then you have another revolution, which should be interesting. But let's get off this real quick. We need to find out about you because we're getting really close to this segment. So tell us about you. Tell us about where you grew up, how you were raised. Tell us some stuff about you. We really don't know much about you. We jumped right into COVID and into religion. So tell us about you.
So, where should I start from? So, yeah, basically, I was born in here. I was raised in here. One thing that I did not follow was my own culture, the Pakistani culture, and not even the Saudi culture. I was hanging somewhere in the middle between Saudi and Pakistani culture, where I had issues with how things work in Pakistan, and at the same time I had issues culturally how things work in Saudi Arabia. For example, in Saudi Arabia, it used to be super extreme when I was young. So I was born in here, and then when I was 4 years old, I went back to Pakistan. So I lived in Pakistan for like 6 years. So I had my primary school completed in Pakistan, right? And everything was very liberal and everything was good. And I studied in a co-ed school, so we had guys and girls studying together. So I know that's normal over there. Over here in Saudi Arabia, it's not. We have separate schools for boys and separate school for girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back to Saudi Arabia, the major cultural shock I had was that I think it was this. I was in 6th grade, so
I entered the class, and the first thing I said was, "Where are the girls?" It was very odd for me to see just boys sitting in one classroom. I'm like, how come girls are not attending the school? I had no idea it was a boys only school. And then everyone laughed, and they were, yeah. So for me, that was and right at that moment when that thing happened, I'm like, I don't want this, you know. And what I ended up doing was that I created my own bubble where I was living in, and by chance, all my friends. Um, okay, so here the way it works is that I can't own a house, right? So we rent an apartment, and this is the culture over here. So all expatriates, they rent an apartment, or if you are fortunate enough, you can rent a house, like a big house, like the multi-story house, right? So uh, in a building, we have multiple apartments. So the apartment where we came and we started living, um, all the kids in my building, um, unfortunately, they were all girls. I didn't get to make a single guy friend, you know? So they were all my friends and they were all girls. And that's how I grew up. I grew up among girls. And I ended up, and imagine you're living in a country and I'm getting to, because I had no idea how the laws work. I'm 10 years old, right? I don't know how the law works in Saudi Arabia just because my dad is working in Saudi Arabia. We are also living here. So I'm getting to know these huge differences that, oh, even for some people, for most of the people at that time, you can't even approach a girl and just, ask a question, for example, or just approach her, talk. Making friends it was like it was something um, it was out of the question. But yeah, throughout my school life, I ended up rejecting everyone. I'm talking about guys. I'm talking about making friends in school. So I was kind of I wouldn't say a loner. Like I would blend in the class, and the moment I would leave my school, I don't know them. If I see someone out at a mall or a shopping center or something, I wouldn't tell my mom that, oh, this guy is my classmate, or I would even avoid having an eye contact. This is how much I was. It just sort of drove me to stay away from guys, just because I'm being told that, okay, this is your life. This is how you're gonna win. This is how you're gonna live. No, I don't. I don't want to. What I ended up doing throughout my whole school life was I spent more time doing learning stuff. So I started with graphic design. I studied it online, and then I started doing website development, and then I started doing animation, and then I started doing photography, and then I moved to videography, and then I learned so many different languages when it comes to coding. Um, Tons of different softwares. So I spent a lot of time spending time. I spent a lot of time investing in my hobbies. These things, they became my hobby, right? And then when I started working, by chance, this is how my life turned out, right? By chance, what happened was that I ended up making only female friends. Like I told you, in my building we had female friends, right? The first company I worked in, it was a female only company. Imagine a company where only females are working, and I was the only guy over there. And because I think they were changing or whatever, so I was the only guy over there, and everyone else were just all girls. And then the second company I worked in, it's not something that I chose. I just applied in different places, and whoever agreed to pay me the salary I was looking for, I just started working there. The second company I started working, um, they had the same thing. The whole culture was all feminine. It was a girly office, literally a girly office. Pink wall and all that stuff. So, um, the bubble I'm talking about is that
my life kind of took me to this way where I created my own culture around me, which was negating from the way the culture is, in Saudi Arabia. And now, at this age, I'm 32 now. So at this age, the government has changed a lot of rules and a lot of regulations, and they are very much open-minded now. There was a time when women weren't allowed to drive, right? We all know about that Saudi Arabia, they didn't allow women to drive. Do you also know that UAE, they didn't allow women to drive as well? That was back in 2000. So the reforms we have in Saudi Arabia right now, UAE did all of those back in 2000 and 2001. And now when you look at UAE, Dubai, what is the first thing that pops in your mind when you think about Dubai? Party.
Yeah, giant buildings, beautiful
Right?
scene by the
Right?
ocean. Yeah.
It's an Islamic country, and you can say they're like the smaller brother of Saudi Arabia. Whatever Saudi Arabia is doing, whatever rules and regulations Saudi Arabia has, they always follow. But they changed, they changed their thought process. They changed the way they were thinking. They changed their culture this way. It's a small country with the even the population is very small. It's not that high. So the population of Saudi Arabia is 36 million. So imagine that's UAE is like a much smaller country with even fewer Emiratis. So yeah, I ended up not following my culture at all. So I'm the odd one out. I'm the ugly duckling. I question everything. Um, we have this thing. If you raise a question, this is the fucked up part, okay? When it comes to Islam, if I'm raising a question that the scholar cannot answer, he's gonna ask me to not ask this question because the devil is trying to put you astray. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like you don't ask confusing questions that moves you away from Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about it moving me away from Islam. It's just because he was stupid enough to not answer my question. He's gonna just make up this thing. Similarly, when we're talking about, and I know I'm jumping from here to there. I'm just speaking my mind out, whatever is coming to my mind, right? So the whole women shouldn't be driving thing. It has nothing to do with Islam. It's all culture.
Hmm.
It has nothing to do with Islam. But what ends up having is that you blame Islam, that Islam is very conservative and this is what it's doing and this is how it's controlling people. It's the people who are using Islam to do stuff their way. For example, Pakistan. The name of Pakistan is Islamic Republic of Pakistan. That's
Mm-hmm.
the actual name of Pakistan. The reason Pakistan came into being was that um, Muslims were suffering into Pak, the whole Indian subcontinent. Muslims were suffering there, and they wanted the freedom um, to practice Islam. And then Pakistan was formed, right? Now the people who are living in India currently, do you know what's happening in India?
You talking about what with the war with China?
Muslims, man, India is right now the government of India is promoting violence, and the Muslims in India, they're suffering badly, especially in villages.
Hmm.
People being burnt alive, the whole village being burnt, um, breaking all the what do you call them? Uh, the mosques where we pray, right? And the
Hmm.
government is not doing anything. Police, they're just standing and they're just watching. They're not letting them um, practice their religion. Some people, they say exactly the same thing about Saudi Arabia, by the way. They're like, Saudi Arabia is doing exactly the same thing. They wouldn't allow anyone to come and build synagogue or church over here. They don't allow that. So if that country is not allowing it, why does it bother you? It's a valid question. That if
Mm-hmm.
a Muslim country is not letting you practice your religion openly, by the way, we have Christians here in Saudi Arabia. The government doesn't say anything to them. We had something called religious police in Saudi Arabia before, right? So the job of the religious police was to actually tell people how to. Basically, you know what they would do? They would catch all the couples, the young couples, guys, girls dating if they're out, and if they catch them, and if they see that you're not related to each other, they would put them in jail, or they would call their parents, and then they would get in trouble. Um, they would ask women to cover their head. They would ask women to cover their face. It was very extreme. It was very extreme back then. And then recently, like a couple of years ago, 3, 4 years ago, I guess, um, the current ruler, they kind of put them on the side. They're like, you're not gonna go in the public, and you're not gonna harass people anymore. So they're not doing that. They're not doing that anymore, right? They change a lot of things. Imagine in 1970, that was the last time when Saudi Arabia had cinemas. They changed those as well. Now they open it again, and they're actually opening like wildfire in each and every mall. By the way, Saudi Arabia is very, very hot, especially Jeddah, where I'm living. It's a very hot place, very, very hot place. I mean, when I say hot, it means between, okay, I need to tell you in Fahrenheit, right? So between 42 centigrade to Fahrenheit. That's, imagine between 107 to 122.
130, about
Yeah,
130.
You said Jeddah?
yeah,
That's a port town also, isn't it?
yep, it is.
So
So,
is it humid there too? Is it like a sticky hot?
yeah, it is.
Ugh.
Dude, trust me, it is so hot. Like I was in Qatar for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It is so hot there. Like you don't even, dude. You just go out there and you roast. like
No,
like when you're
I get that. I've had a metal shop in Las Vegas, and we wouldn't sweat. We just dust. The salt crystals would form on our arms and stuff. But I would take the dry hot over humid hot. If it's
oh
100 degrees and it's that humid, fuck that.
well, but I'm telling you, like so in Kuwait, like in Kuwait, when you get to the port cities in Kuwait, you get that sticky hot. But Qatar is so fucking hot, you don't even feel any of it, dude. You just it's like being in an oven, essentially. Like you walk outside, you're in
So,
an oven.
Jake, did you notice something? When you go out anywhere, you're in a mall, you're in the car, you're in the house, wherever you are, they always have air conditioning everywhere.
Mm,
Everywhere. You cannot move without air conditioning. So air conditioning is like our sole
resource.
survival thing.
Yeah.
This is something that we need. We cannot live without it. I mean, in each and every room, in each and every house, in each and every apartment, they must have a unit. It's a must. It's not optional or okay, let's put it or let's not. When we are building houses, they build these windows. They used to build these holes in the what do you call it? Like these frames in the wall, so that you can mount the AC. Like that was the place for the AC. They would build it that way. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like this is how it works over here. Now, of course, because we have the split air conditioning, that the refrigerator part goes outside, and inside you have the blowing part. So you don't have those holes anymore. Otherwise, window AC, what we call, is common everywhere. Everywhere you go, you cannot move without it. That's why we don't have many outdoor activities. All we have over here, if you come to Jeddah, what you're gonna find is, yeah, you're gonna see the beach. You're gonna see really beautiful beaches over here, beach resorts.
you're not gonna find a lot of outdoor activities, and even if you do, they're gonna be all at night or, in the evening, late evening. Nothing in the morning, nothing in the afternoon. You can't.
Mm.
Nobody can do it. That's why our lifestyle is all night based. You hang out at night. And everything is open till 2 a.m., 1 a.m. because people are actually up and living their lives during that time. During the day, yeah, of course, everyone is going to work and everything. But people in the house, like anyone who is not working, they're probably just chilling, sleeping. They don't get up early in the morning and enjoy the day. No, 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 no. There's no such thing as a good day. So, yeah, that's how the culture is over here.
So what about what do you think of Americans? Like from what I understand, you haven't been over here and you're working on coming over here, but from what you know of United States of America, what do you think of us? Like what do you think of our what do you think of our culture? What do you think of our politics? What do you think of the people that that you talk to? What do you think of them?
It's nothing like the way they show in the movies. Ah, fuck America! No, no, it's not like it's not like that at all. They just over exaggerate it,
Of
and they
course.
always show. Okay,
They gotta. The media has to sell something.
of course, it makes it more dramatic, more funny, basically. Have you noticed something? Whenever they're gonna show Saudi Arabia, they're gonna start with desert and hot heat and camels and stuff. I have actually, I have like 100 people on my Call of Duty account, right? All of them, I met them online. I just have maybe one or two real life friends who are like my friends in real life. Other than that, I met everyone online. And when I tell someone that I'm from Saudi Arabia, there have been, I shouldn't say majority of the cases, but a lot of people have actually asked me that, do you guys still ride on camels? And I thought they were just joking, and I started laughing, and they're like serious. They're like, it's a valid question. I'm like,
No, I
are you?
thought you guys all drove Ferraris in the desert.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought the other
how
end of
it
the
is.
spectrum.
That's how it is,
And
actually.
have the gold bar vending machines.
Mm.
Yep, yep. It is
Throwing $100 bills up in the air
close
like
enough,
you're a rapper.
close enough, close enough. But a lot of people actually still think that this is how Saudi Arabia is, and I don't blame them. I mean, remember Jake the other day we were talking about people should know each other's politics, or not politics, each other's history. They should know where the country is coming from or where the people are coming from, um, why they think in a particular way, and
Hmm.
why it's this
You
is
know,
what
what I think part of that is though.
Mhm.
I think part of it is, I don't want to say intentional, but it is. It's intentional. It's the image of your culture is sold as backwards, third world, you know, because it dehumanizes you. So, oh, well, we're going to go to war with, people in the Middle East. Oh, well, they're all backwards and third world anyway. Who cares? Kind of
Hmm.
thing. So I think a big part of that is media dehumanizing potential opponents, and and there's a great book um, by Lieutenant Colonel Grossman called On Killing,
Hmm.
and it's basically about the psychology of killing and how it kind of progressed through, you know, the Civil War and World War One, World War Two, and how they kind of realized the psychology behind it and started training better killers.
Hmm.
So I do think a big part of that bump or that wall you're hitting when people think, oh, I thought you guys rode camels. Well, that's a cultural thing, because that's how you're portrayed here
Hmm.
in efforts to dehumanize people in the Middle East and so on.
If I ask you, if I ask you what pops in your head the moment I say terrorist, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna tell you about myself, right? Whenever anyone says terrorist, the first thing that pops in my mind is, someone
with a big beard and a turban, and
Shit, don't out beard people, man.
If you'd asked me like 6 or 7 years ago, I would agree, but no, I mean,
this is all because of media. Since childhood, I mean, I have always been watching English movies, whether it's British or American or whatever. It's all English movies, right? Whatever's in the box office, we watch all the movies. That's how we were raised. I think I would say that for almost everyone over here in Pakistan and everywhere. Like, we watch these movies. They're great movies, but the way, like, when you watch a lot of movies, and when you keep seeing the same thing over and over again, I mean, if I tell you a new word and then I show you an object and I tell you this is what it's called, if I tell you that in my language, in Urdu, we call this thing, right? A bottle, this thing. So what's gonna happen is that you're gonna affiliate the bottle with that word, right? Now imagine I'm young, and if I'm being told that this is how terrorists look like, because the Mission Impossible, I don't know if it's in Mission Impossible. I'm just quoting a movie. I just watched it two days ago. Mission Impossible Fallout. It was amazing. So imagine if they're showing any Arab as terrorist. What's gonna happen is that I'm gonna affiliate the word. I'm gonna link it together. That okay, terrorist is this, and then they keep calling terrorists. They're either from Russia or they're somewhere from their, one of the Arab countries. And I remember I asked my father this question. One of my favorite classical movies is Back to the Future. So it was Back to the Future 1, and they showed these terrorists with the RPG. They're coming after him, and you guys have seen Back to the Future, right? Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So remember that scene before Doc, he goes to, like, he time travels.
When the terrorists drove up in the van.
Yes, exactly. That is the image of terrorist I have in mind, because that was the movie when I saw, like, when I was really young. I had no idea. I had no connection with. I didn't even know the word terrorist back then.
So
And
I've got a question on that note. I have a question for you.
yeah.
And I know it impacts people differently. I know exactly where I was. I'm sure Jake knows where he was. Do you remember where you were at when September 11th happened in the United States? Well, September 11th happened across the globe,
Yes,
but
I was in school.
but when that happened, what were your thoughts about that?
I will tell. I'm gonna tell you what were my dad's thoughts, because when I came back home, I had no idea what World Trade Center was, right? And when I came back home, my dad was in office and he was super worried. Okay, he was very much into politics, right? So he was in office, and I saw the second crash live. It was, I think, on BBC or something. So I came back home, and then my mom, she told me that World Trade Center got hit, by a plane. And then there were these huge headlines. It says America under attack, right? And we're seeing the first building burning, and then the second plane comes and it hits the second building. And I think when that happened, my dad, he was already home, and the moment he saw that building hit, the plane hit the building, you know what he said? He said Muslim countries are fucked.
It was basically an
That's what
excuse
he
for
said.
war.
Straight away. Sorry?
It was used as an excuse for war.
Yes. So he was like, now it's gonna be super difficult for Muslims to live in the West, and it's gonna be super difficult for Muslim countries to have peace, because what just happened right now. And at that time, he was like, "This is a cover up. Definitely, this is a cover up, because it's just impossible for the for the what do you call it, superpower, to put their guards down and let two planes hit a building. It just doesn't make any sense with all the technology and all the army, and F-16s always ready and always on the round and this and that and everything. How can you let one? Okay, let's say we let it slide. How come you let two airplanes just go and crash into the building? So I heard that. I'm like, what does this has to do with? Because I had no idea what's the background, what's happening. And during the news, they were all saying that, oh, they already knew who like how many people were on the plane and who were they, and the faces and pictures, and they're saying there were, I think, 18 Saudis on the board, on board, and they found the passports. The whole building was melted and everything down, but they found the passport. So, it was like Kevlar. So I don't intend to mock, honestly. It was kind of ridiculous to see how can anyone let this happen,
Well, not just two planes. I think four were taken, three hit targets.
There was one more thing, right?
Pentagon.
Yeah, the Pentagon, and then you had one in a random field. It didn't make its target.
Right. So
And that was the one that probably would have done the most good if it really was taking out the Capitol building.
Oh man.
Look, it was a tragedy. Okay, anything that kills a human being, that's bad. Whether it's a government cover-up, whether it's a terrorist attack, whatever you call it, whatever is the reason behind it, as long as any human life is being lost, that's just bad.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
My personal belief on that is a combination of the two. I don't think that it was completely a cover-up, but I do think that our government caught wind ahead of time, and I think they let it happen as an excuse to be able to go to war because, hey, those Iraqi fields had a lot of oil, even though they had nothing to do with any of it.
That was a little different because you got to remember, after that war, we didn't end up in Iraq. After those planes crashed, we were in Afghanistan. Iraq happened later when we found weapons of mass destruction. So that was a little different. It's not like we went straight into Iraq. We went into Afghanistan because Afghanistan started in 2001. Iraq didn't happen until like the beginning of 2003. So.
But Darian, your question was what were my feelings? This is what I heard, and I was confused. Why blame us, and how would it affect me personally, right? I'll give you an example. Even now, for example, I was just telling Jake that I'm gonna apply for a visit visa. Basically, I want to come for my honeymoon to US. So because of the whole Corona thing, it got delayed. So I'm gonna apply and go. So in the past 2 years, I just started keeping my beard. I just grew it. I grew it long. It's I don't know how many inches I should say, but it's a long beard. I'm gonna show it to you. So what happened was that this friend of mine, he goes like, listen, if you're gonna go with this face, you're gonna get rejected. I'm like, why? He's like, lose the beard. I'm like, why? Like, that's how it works. Lose the beard. Do you want to go to US or not? I'm like, yeah. Lose the beard. That's right.
You should see my passport photo, by the way. I look like a terrorist. I look like this guy in this picture, but you know what I mean? So, but keep going. This is funny.
So, yeah, people still, I don't know how it works, how it goes. And then a lot of people, they keep reporting that the random selection at TSA security check. So there is one more thing, by the way. I'm very pro police. I'm like, if the government is stopping you and asking you for your identity, show it to them. They're doing their job. They want to make sure that you stay safe, right? They're not doing this to harass you. They're doing this to make sure you're not someone without legal papers or without legal entry. So, and if they're doing that, make their lives easy. I see tons of videos online where people are arguing, "Oh, I'm not going to show it to you. I'm not supposed to show it to you, and it's my right to not show you my ID." They are the caretakers.
The reason for that, though, is because there is a lot of, and especially lately, but this has been going on with well, my people, the libertarians, which you always hear about Democrats, Republicans. You probably don't hear about us,
Okay.
but just the, infringement of our rights. Just you get stopped for apparently no reason. They want to see your ID. They want to know who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, and it's none of their fucking business what I'm doing.
Why not? You're the ones who are providing the security.
I can provide my own security.
No, you can't.
Why can't I?
Because I mean, I'm even against the gun law. You know why? Because if me and both of you are sensible enough to be responsible with our weapons, I mean, there are stupid people out there. So if you allow us, you're gonna allow them as well, and then they're gonna use it whatever way they want. And once again, if you're if anything kills a human being, it's just bad, man. That's the deal breaker for me. Any law, anything that kills a human being or that promotes any kind of violence that kills a human being, that's the deal breaker.
But see, that's where you lost me, because I'm definitely a gun guy.
Okay.
And in our country, our Constitution, the Second Amendment acknowledges our right to keep and bear arms.
Right.
And it's not about hunting like people, later are claiming. It's about, fighting against an oppressive government and being able to defend yourself and your property. And, yeah, there's going to be stupid people everywhere. And I think it comes back to like the Corona type thing. That it's a collectivist mindset versus an individualist mindset. I am an individual. I have my individual rights. You're an individual. You have your individual rights. These are rights given to you by nature, by God, by Allah, by the supreme being, the oversoul of the universe. Just by being a human in existence. And one of those rights is the ability to protect and defend yourself. And in that then includes the weaponry to do so.
Sure, I agree with you. If you're alone on an island, once you're part of a society, you have to go with the precautions that preserves the society. Don't you agree?
See, and everybody always kind of cites this whole social contract. I never signed a social contract. I'd opt out if I could. If I could live in the woods and not deal with others and just make my guns and sell them and live off the land, I would freaking love that. But the government still will come after me and tax me for property taxes and income taxes and so on. But that's one thing. I'm one of those that will not give up my firearms or my weapons, and it is that rebel, like Jake was saying, the rebel spirit of Americans is so ingrained in our DNA, in our culture, that I don't think there's any way to do so. And they keep trying to do these baby steps, and I think it's to the point where they've taken so many baby steps that people are finally saying no to quote unquote sensible gun laws kind of thing. And if they really push it, it's gonna turn into a violent confrontation.
So in your opinion, how would you what would be the best practice to avoid any kind of gun violence?
There's no way to avoid any kind of gun violence unless you could wave a magic wand and make every single gun in the world disappear. Because if it's not from citizens, it's going to be police. I don't know how your media is over there, but we have police officers killing unarmed citizens, and
I've seen some of the videos.
and it, sometimes they're justified, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just tragic mistakes. But as long as the government has these weapons, so should the people. Is my view on it. If somebody could wave a magic wand, and and this would be a great asshole question, if you could press a button and just make every weapon in the world disappear, would you do so? In a case like that, I probably would do that. Would press it, make all the guns go away, period. Although tomorrow there'd be thousands of people sitting there printing up 3D printing guns tomorrow.
Not even that though. Like you would probably have like some dude that was like 6'7", 300 pounds, shows up at your door and says, "Give me all your shit," and there's nothing you can do about it. Right. So I mean, what, but like kind of what he said, but like, I mean, dude, like, if you're a crazy person, if you're a bad person and you want to kill people, you'll find a way to do it. Terrorists in the Middle East aren't killing people with guns; they're killing people with bombs. You have terrorists in France; they're running over people with fucking trucks. Terrorists in UK, they're chopping people up with machetes. They're stabbing people. Like if you want to
kill, something like that.
What's up?
Didn't someone use a swordfish, or was that what was used to stop the guy?
I did not hear. I just know that
one in England that either the terrorist guy was stabbing people with a swordfish, or got stopped by a guy using a swordfish or something like that.
Right.
Swordfish.
Yeah, swordfish. But so if you think about it this way, if you think about like if I hated Muslims, practicers of Islam, if I hated them and I didn't have a gun, then I'm gonna go fucking stab them, or I'm gonna hang them, or I'm gonna poison them. Like if I hate anybody and I want them to die, and I'm a bad person, then I'll find a way. But if the government has fucking guns and they decide that they're gonna infringe on my God-given rights, or as Darian says, my rights by nature, they have guns and I don't. So what am I to do? How am I to say, hey, excuse me, Mr. President or Senator or Representative, I had the right to practice my religion freely. I had the right to freedom of press. I had the right to freedom of speech, peaceably assemble. I had the right to vote. I had rights. And they're like, yeah, well, we have guns. What do you have? I have a knife. Well, let's see how that works. So on one end, you're talking about people using guns to kill people, but dude, people kill people all the time. And they kill them over their religion. They kill them over their colors because they're gang members. They kill them over anything. The thing is, you don't need a gun to kill somebody. I watch enough murder TV shows to know that people kill for 3 reasons, and that's money, sex, and revenge. Those are like the 3 biggest reasons anybody kills anybody. So,
and just to throw out some statistics, even the CDC has said that the research has shown up to 2.5 million defensive gun uses every year.
3.5 million.
Defensive uses, yes. That means people protecting themselves with guns. Or incidents. It could be the same person a couple times. I don't know.
Right.
But, so
I compare Saudi Arabia with the rest of the world in a way that the crime rate over here is so low that the most you're gonna hear about is someone probably sometime somewhere snatching something and running away. It's not even stealing something on gunpoint. I shouldn't say snatch, I should say stealing. Snatching is face to face, you take it from someone and then you run away. So stealing is you do it you're in a hidden manner without someone else knowing. So
gun violence is almost zero over here because they don't have guns. Nobody. By the way, people do own guns over here. If you go to the highway, you will find the holster where you're supposed to that belt thing where you
Hmm.
keep the weapon. They're selling it on the highways. So apparently, people in the not in the cities but in the rural areas, everyone like most of them they do own a gun, but I never hear of any news related to gun violence. Maybe once in a couple of years.
Well, and one of the things too, I believe, is the penalties for things like that are swift and pretty
Yeah.
deterring.
Yep, it is swift.
Permanent.
Yep, yep. It's the laws over here are super strict. I'm happy with these laws because they keep me safe, you know. I have never for even a second thought about, oh, I can't leave my car unlocked or keep my house unlocked, I can just it's just so we live in a very very secure place. It's very it never crosses my mind to think that if I leave this here it's gonna get stolen or stuff like that. It just never goes through my mind. But whenever I go back to Pakistan, especially Karachi, right? Oh my God, everyone is so scared of me leaving the house that I will either get kidnapped or someone's gonna just to snatch my watch or my phone. They might kill me because guns are very common over there. And
In
again, just
fact, I will admit I wanted to ask you about that because
yeah,
I've always heard the stories of the markets in Pakistan. We could walk up and just buy crates of AKs and all these
yep.
great weapons and things. And even just saw some pictures of they had some FNFALs, for
What
like $50.
what is that?
It's a rifle, high-powered rifle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in Pakistan we have what we call first copy of weapons, and they're extremely cheap, extremely cheap. Not very durable, but extremely cheap. Yeah, you can find a couple of documentaries on it as well. How you can
And
just
oh, I just wanted to throw out there. I quickly looked it up. It was on London Bridge,
yeah,
and the guy had been going around knifing people,
yeah.
and the guy he was stopped by someone who grabbed a narwhal tusk off the wall in a shop nearby, and
You really looked that up.
yep. So I mean, people are going to be violent. Humans inherently have a seed of violence in them, whether it grows to the proportions that cause them to go do bad things, or they stop at just stepping on bugs or whatever.
Mm.
And that's just human nature. Um, so
By the way, how's the security action over there? I mean, if you report a crime or if something is happening, can do you think people get away with uh, with crime, with whatever crime they're doing?
depends on what the crime is. I mean, these days, if you call, if you got robbed,
Right.
um, or if someone was breaking your house, it would take the police 10 to 15 minutes to get there.
In
And
or minutes?
yep.
Whoa.
And here, where I live, um, they probably get here a little bit faster because it's a smaller town, but still 5 to 10 minutes for them to respond.
Right.
Um, and 5 minutes, 3 minutes is a long time when it comes to somebody breaking in and you don't know what they're going to do.
Mhm.
So, sure, I'll call the cops, but they'll probably have to haul out a body too, because
Wow.
there's nothing I won't do to protect my wife and myself.
Mm.
And so there's that. But who knows if there's a church having a thing, and violating the corona restrictions or whatever, cops can be there in 5 minutes. So It depends on what's their priority right now, and we've got
In
all the.
in Saudi Arabia, I have a friend who is in police, and they have a really strict rule that within 2 minutes of the call, if the police doesn't, okay, so every area has this in charge, right? Or the responsible person patrolling the area. So they have these designated areas. So whenever you get a call, like, I mean, if you're calling the police and you're reporting a crime, and if the policeman doesn't arrive at the scene within 2 minutes, they put the policeman in jail and start interrogating him that he might be involved in it.
See, police accountability would be a great start over here.
Dude, that would be awesome.
But instead, we've got unions who fight for these rules and stuff, and it's yeah. See, police accountability would be a great way to start.
24 hours of jail if you don't reach the station on time in the morning.
Like if they're late for work, they're in jail for 24 hours for a day.
Yep. Not right away on your weekend. Like, so basically they work for 4 days and then they have, I think, 3 days off or 4 days off. It goes like this, right? So whenever they have an off day, that is when you're supposed to spend your time in jail. In the lock.
That's kind of a beautiful way of doing it.
Wrong uniform, jail. You're not wearing the right shoes, jail. They are super strict and they're super efficient. This is what I love about them, and this is why I really respect them. So if they stop me and they ask me for, I never faced. But by the way, racism has been a big issue here in Saudi Arabia, right? And imagine if you're living in a country which is not like you don't have democracy over here, and then when you're facing these kind of problems, what you end up doing is just you just shut up and live. Why are you living here? Because you make good money. It's a give and take situation. You give your freedom so that you can earn good money. A lot of people, they come here for only 10 years, they earn good money, they go back to their own countries, they build their houses, and they start good business, whatever. A lot of people like me, who were born and raised here, I feel like this is my country. I don't feel like Pakistan is my country. I feel like Pakistan is like a second home, which is not homely at all. Here, I remember all the streets. I remember, I know all the cities. I have been all over Saudi Arabia, from top to bottom, each and every city. Beautiful place, beautiful people. But if I go back to Pakistan, I can't even communicate with people without cringing because I just don't like it there. I just don't like it there, And the liberal people in Pakistan that Pakistanis don't like, who they find, they're like who these the typical Pakistani call, non-religious and too open and stuff like that. I blend really well with them because they understand basic, um, basic human rights. They understand basic science. They understand logic. The most important thing, logic. It really nothing matters to me. The only thing matters to me is logic. If you want me to understand something, anything at all, any law or anything, you give me a solid logic behind it, and I'm gonna be on board with you. That's it. That's what matters. If you tell me that, oh no, it's this thing is there because it's written in Quran, or this is what our Prophet said, I'm not gonna follow that. I want to go in depth. I want to understand what was the actual essence behind it. I I need to feel um what's the word I'm looking for? Um I should agree with it. If I don't agree with it, then I'm not gonna follow it. That's my take on my own religion. So I'm not
So
gonna say that.
here's a question. I don't know if you can answer this. I don't know exactly what the laws are. Just what we're presented.
Okay.
Do you drink?
I don't.
Is that a religious decision or is that a legal?
For me. By the way, you can definitely find liquor over here. You can find weed over here. It's I mean, I know people who drink. I know people who smoke up, right? That's very normal. Not very normal, but a lot of people I know that does that, right? Um, for me personally, it is neither a religious decision nor the government. When it comes to drinking, I'm talking about only specifically. I'm talking about drinking. I just don't want to drink. It intoxicates a person. The personality I have, I don't like losing control. When I get sick, when I get fever, high fever, whenever I get fever, I get really, really high fever. And right after recovering from fever, when I feel weak, it pisses me off whenever I'm feeling weak. It just pisses me off that I'm unable to pick something heavy right away. I just got better today, and I'm unable to run as fast or work as hard as I used to be when I was normal. It just pisses me off. So the whole idea of intoxicating myself, I don't like that. So I don't smoke. I don't drink, just because of this idea. It has nothing to do with Islam.
So in a nutshell, if you were to come over to the U.S., you have a generally good feeling that like you would have a generally good feeling that like the average American you run into really wouldn't give a shit who you worship or what the hell you do with your life.
That's amazing.
Or at least if you hung out with me or Darian, like we'd be like, yeah, dude, why don't you come over? We'll barbecue, and then we'll go shoot some guns. Because I think both of us would do that.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. All right, we are like way over time, but it was definitely awesome. Darian, you want to go ahead and drum up the ask cool question of the evening? Darian.
I think he slept.
No. I had was coughing and I had turned down my mic. I had some other questions to ask, but yeah, we are running long tonight.
We'll have to
I
have
know
him
you
back
need
on
some
for like
sleep,
part two. We'll have to have him on for part two, man.
but all right. So we'll skip ahead. I wanted to talk to you about some of the traditions though, man, because I doing the Muslim funerals were just some of the most beautiful services that I've ever worked with, and uh, the imam was very patient with me in my learning and taught me a lot. And I always ate this great yellow kind of cake that they served at the funeral, and always got sprinkled with rose water. But
It was Busa probably. Was it an Arabic funeral?
yes,
Then it was probably yeah.
well, spell that for me because I've been trying to find a recipe for that for so long.
Yeah, it's called Basbousa. 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 Or Basbousa. Basbousa.
And looking at the picture, yep, that looks like it with the little
Yeah.
almonds on top.
Yeah.
Oh man, those are that was just some of the that was just the
And
little old ladies would bring it out there. We'd have tables and stuff set up for them, and they had something that was like a baklava also, but it wasn't baklava.
yeah, well,
So, but the funeral services were just beautiful, and they would it was very touching, and I very much like tradition. Um, and my favorite services to work were the Muslim services and the Chinese services that were done with the traditions and everything in mind. And the Imam Mahmud, he would come out and he had everything all ready to go, and we just it ran like clockwork, and it was just beautiful. He even started teaching me a little Farsi. Although the only things I remember now is Assalamu alaikum when
yeah.
when meeting the people, and Ma assalam. or
means like goodbye, or
yeah, that's pretty much all I remember from talking with him. But we will definitely have to have you around. It was great speaking with you. But let's jump ahead to the ask Cole question. And so I'm gonna give you the chance. Tell me a number, and I'm gonna skip ahead to that question.
okay. I don't know, 6.
6. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is an interesting one. Should people be allowed to sell themselves into slavery, given they are not coerced into the decision, and given full information about what it entails?
Can you repeat the last part?
So, should people be allowed to sell themselves into slavery, given that they are not coerced into making that decision, and that they know everything about what's going to happen?
Oh, sure, definitely. It's your freedom, whatever you want to do.
I would lean towards agreeing with that, because it's although I don't think it would actually be slavery at that point, because you're consenting to this.
No. What if it's actual slavery though? If they're like, sign up and be a slave, right? And nobody's forcing you to do it, and you know that you're going to be a slave.
It's like a job.
But you're a slave. So I think there could be a situation where you could be a slave. Right? It's not like you're just signing yourself up to like a life of servitude. You're literally be like, "Hey, do you want to be a slave?" And they're like, "I don't know. What is it?" And you explain it to them, and you don't force him to do it, and you're like, "Here, sign on the dotted line and you can be a slave."
Yep.
And should they be
and essentially selling it. So I mean, I think the moral side of this comes back to, would that then be abused by the ultra wealthy to prey upon the poor and disenfranchised? Hey, if you become my slave, I will give you, who then can pass it to your family, $100,000, which will take care of all their problems. So
that's borderline coercion, though.
It's not, you're not coercing them in the sense that, I'm going to hurt you guys if you don't, or whatever. You're presenting, hey, here is your option out. Your family has an issue, and you've got an option out. So
I like his answer though.
Can I ask you guys a question?
All right.
Both of you in army?
No.
Okay.
I was going to go into the Navy, and then I found out I was colorblind, so I couldn't do any of the stuff I wanted to.
Yeah, that's military service is very, very selective.
Yeah, Jake. Then I have a question for you.
What's up?
When you join the army, you're supposed to follow the commands of your superior, right? Because they're the ones who are planning the whole thing up, and you're supposed to follow them.
They have to be legal, and they have to be like legal lawfully. They have to be lawful and legal orders.
At the end of the day, you follow the command they're giving, right?
Right, but if they
unethical it is.
No. If it's unethical, if they tell me to kill a village full of children, I can tell them go fuck themselves, and then when they put me on trial, then I could be like, he told me to kill a bunch of kids. I'm not going to do that. So it depends, right?
So you have the option to not obey.
If it's not legal and it's not lawful, meaning like if they told me to do something that broke like if they told me to steal something or do something that was against like army regulations, I don't have to listen to them. Or if they told me to do something that was against like the Geneva Conventions or something that wasn't lawful, like, oh, go kill that guy. And it's like, oh, why are we killing him? Just kill him. I don't feel comfortable. I need to know why. That way, if I kill this guy and then, well, dude, my fucking commander told me that he was a terrorist and he was responsible for opium trade. I don't know. So, but where's the question going? I like this. Where's this going?
Basically, where I was going, where I was basically trying to go
isn't sort of like worldwide, isn't people working in army sort of like slavery, that you do exactly what you're told and they do all
No,
sort of stuff, and
not really. The reason is the reason I wouldn't say it's slavery is because essentially slavery.
remotely, I don't
Oh,
call it slavery, and that's just wrong. I'm
okay,
just,
so remotely,
spicing it up.
I guess, but it's a contract, so you're under contract, and the contract is, because like the basis of slavery is somebody is taking your time away from you, and they're not giving you anything. Like you're not getting paid for your time. So if I make you work for me and I don't pay you at all, then that's kind of slavery, right? Like you could argue like, well, I feed them and I clothe them. Well, we fed and we clothed and we housed real slaves, but they didn't get paid and they were never free. So, in a sense, I guess you could argue it's kind of slavery, but the army does feed you, they do clothe you, but they do pay you and they give you health care. And essentially, once your contract is over, you can leave. So maybe it's more like indentured servitude. So indentured servitude, you signed a contract where you said for 7 years, I'm your bitch, right? And then after 7 years, you could sign another contract or you could just leave, right?
That concept, I think, is kind of pointing at the Marxist kind of wage slavery, and where it kind of compares, well, between it's a comparison of wage labor and slavery, where you have to work so that and make money to pay for your basic necessities, and is used in a kind of a socialist on the socialist, all the socialist tracts that they hand out at you at the Antifa protests.
But it's not true, because essentially, like if you were making the same amount of pay from the first day you joined the army until the 20th year in which you retired, then I could argue, yeah, that's kind of like that. But if you're in for 20 years, you've at least made it to, in the army, the pay grade of E6. So you've made it far enough, and obviously by the time you've been in 20 years from E1 to E6, you're making substantially more money. So, like the socialism aspect, like if we want to talk about socialism, that's just the government owning like the big corporations.
No. It's part of it.
If we're talking about communism, though, then you and I both work in the army, and we're going to make the same amount of money regardless. So you being day 1 private and me being year 20 staff sergeant, if we're both making the same money, yeah, that's totally communism. But me being in 20 years and making $54,000 annually, and you being in day 1 and making less than $20,000 a year annually, yeah, okay, we can make an argument there. But I don't think it's an institution in itself. It's not a fair institution, but it's like the fairest institution out of everything that I can relate to. Women get paid the same as men, blacks get paid the same as whites, all based on what your pay grade is. Now, if you have some special skills, you can get extra money for those skills. There's a lot of things in there, but generally speaking, if you're a sergeant and I'm a sergeant, it doesn't matter if you're a sergeant in the infantry and I'm a sergeant and I'm a computer tech. We make the same amount of money. If you're black, if you're a black Muslim gay woman, like even if that's possible, like you're still making the same amount of money I am, as long as we're the same pay grade. Now, if I'm a higher pay grade than you, then I'm going to make more money, and that has nothing to do with the fact that you're black, you're gay, or you're Muslim, or you're a woman. That has nothing to do with that. That just means I'm, you know what I mean? So it's a weird.
I really want to ask something.
Well, go ahead.
That particular combination of black Muslim gay women.
Yeah.
Why did you put all these four together?
Because I wanted to make a point that like the amount of money that you make is not based on any demographic. It's based on your your potential and how, like, whether you worked hard or maybe you had like a little bit of luck. So a lot of people will say, well, that guy makes more than me because he's black and affirmative action, or that guy makes more than me because he's white and white privilege, or he makes more money because he's a Christian man and I'm a gay, whatever. Like, the Army doesn't give a shit. Like, like nowadays you can be gay, you can be open about being gay, you can be Muslim, you could be Christian, you could be a Jew, you could be agnostic, you can be an atheist, you could be a Wiccan. I mean, you could be Scientologist. You could be anything you want to be, any color you want to be. And most of your success or your failures is based on your work ethic, which I think every fucking job should be. I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't think I should get a promotion or I should get a job because I'm black. And well, we need more black representation in our company. It's like, no, you just need a black guy that's better than who else is competing against. He doesn't need to be black. It doesn't need to be a female. It doesn't need to be gay. It's just who knows the job better, who's got the qualifications, who's got the experience, who's got the fucking drive and the motivation. Because that's... And the Army's not perfect because nothing is perfect because we're all humans, but there is
government run.
Sure, but I mean, I'm sure if you look at other corporations, it's probably worse. If you look at IBM or you look at Intel or you look at how like Fortune 500 companies run compared to the military, I think the military runs pretty damn well. Because they make you be physically fit, and being physically fit helps you deal with stress better. It also extends the longevity of your life, which ensures that their employees are going to perform better. If nobody's making you get up in the morning and run 5 miles and do push-ups and sit-ups, and it's up to you, then you're just going to get fat and you're going to eat donuts, and you're going to have fucking heart problems later on in your life. And then when there's stressors in your life and you're not exercising, you can't deal with them as well as when you're exercising and you're healthy. That's science there. We want to talk about science. I mean, and then there's other things. I mean, there's training. Like at least 4 times a year, I get a class on don't rape people, don't sexually harass people, don't sexually assault.
Don't rape, okay.
Yeah, don't rape people, don't drink and drive. And not a lot of companies do that. Not a lot of companies have that. So you have a lot of those issues where, people, now we still have them in the military, but they get punished. Whereas like, you see people and maybe they rape somebody or they sexually assault somebody and, they just leave the company. It's like we get constantly told what not to do. So there is that training. We are always reminded, hey, we're the Army, and if you're doing something bad, we're going to totally fuck you. Just so you know. And every 3 months I get that training, and every year I get the EO training, and maybe I learn something new. Maybe I'm jealous of Sikhs and Sikhism because they can wear beards in the Army, and then I'm like, maybe I should change religions, and then I'm like, whatever. I don't really give a shit. It's just kind of how I look at things. So, it is a terrible institution in the sense that it is to get into the institution, it is very selective. Like you get a job, you go apply for a job, they're not going to say, sir, you're too fat to get this job. You'll never hear that. Sir, I'm sorry. No, but in the Army, they can say that. You're too fat. Or, yeah, you have diabetes. We don't want you. You have heart disease. We don't want. Like it is the hardest job to get into by the general masses. Not everybody can get in. But you get your health care paid for. You get a check. It's not a lot when you're starting out, but that's incentive to progress. To what do I got to do to make it up there? You got to show leadership skills. You got to memorize a bunch of bullshit. You got to memorize some important shit, and you got to perform at your job. And essentially that's what it should be, right? Like any job you get, you should have the drive to do it. You should memorize a lot of bullshit because maybe you got to know some bullshit that's not important, and you got to know a lot of shit that you should know. And how's your work ethic? How is your performance? But, in any job, you shouldn't just sit there and get promoted because you're black or you're white or you're a woman or you're gay or you're Jewish. Shouldn't matter. It should just matter what you want to do. Do you want to succeed? Do you want more money? Do you want more responsibility? Cool, good for you. If you don't, that's cool too. But then the Army's got you, because if you don't progress after so many years, they kick you out anyway. Well, you're not trying? Get out of here. But,
Funny story. You know what happened in Pakistan? They couple of years back, they um, they made this new regulation in police academy that anyone who's obese, they're gonna get a salary cut. So what happened was that a lot of people they started working out and stuff, and but majority of them they started quitting the job. Like rather than keeping the job and really working hard to reduce the weight, they had a really good schedule. That, for example, if I'm 100 and okay, how much is 105 kilos in pounds? I'm 105 kg
it's
in
2.24.
yeah, so that's like 230 pounds, right? So if I'm 230 pounds and my target is to be 180, they're going to give me a plan that, okay, you can lose your weight in the next 6 months, for example. Something lenient, nothing too aggressive. So they started doing that, but most of the people, imagine people in police, they're supposed to be the active ones, right? I'm talking about in Pakistan, not in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, you're gonna find all policemen super thin and super active. They're like small. They look like kids, but they're very mature and they're very fit. But in Pakistan, well, what you're gonna find is the same kind of people eating donuts. So they don't eat donut. They eat all sorts of different kind of sweets, but not donuts. So they started doing that, and people they just started quitting the job. No drive at all to stay fit and earn good. No, easy way out, quit the job.
I think that's the same thing that would happen if all of our police officers had to meet the same standards as well.
Yeah, we'd be hurt. Oh man.
Well, shit. The way the police are getting shit on right now, they're having a tough time getting their numbers back up.
Hmm.
Seattle's had an influx of people just saying fuck it and leaving
Wow. Why?
because of the protest stuff like that, and
The
they're
Black
having their
Lives
hands.
Matters one?
Yes, although I want to I clarify this all the time. I don't believe it's the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, I see that is different than Black Lives Matter Incorporated, the organization, which is a Marxist organization, uh,
Okay.
which is different from Antifa, who are typically the ones who are the agitators and the ones burning the buildings and things.
Hmm.
So you've got three factions of people out there protesting. You've got the people who are the hey, cops did something bad and we're out protesting because a black guy got shot.
Hmm.
Then you have the organization which is capitalizing on the name who's trying to push a Marxist agenda for our country,
Okay.
and then you've got the Antifa groups that are also um, Marxist communist who want to basically stir up shit.
Hmm. Who creates the stereotype? I mean, if I ask you, um, all of us are racist one way or the other because of our past experiences, based on our past experience, not based on what we see, but based on what we have experienced. So if you met all the shitty guys from Pakistan, what's going to happen is that the next Pakistani guy you're going to see, you're going to be careful with them. So that doesn't make you racist, that just makes you careful. What's your take on that?
Um, it's a slippery slope, and I agree with you to an extent. Though I tend to try to approach every interaction with a new person as colorblind as possible. However, you're right. There are some stereotypes exist for a reason, and so that can creep up. But I like to think anyhow that I'm open-minded enough to set that aside, meet with people, and just judge them on their character versus some preconceived notion or past experiences with other people that have nothing to do with the person I'm meeting and talking with.
But that's not very human. I mean, it's very human of you to be careful, but it's not human of you. I mean, it's not.
Well, that's my
It's not a very natural thing.
But yeah, it's something you have to train yourself to do. I mean, let's be let's like that's not what you would normally do, but that's what you have to do because nobody deserves to be. That's kind of the principle, man. Like,
and it comes back to my whole philosophy of life. The whole non-aggression principle and golden rule kind of thing. Leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Do unto others you want them to do unto you kind of thing. So I don't want someone to mess with me just because some half Japanese, half Spanish person fucked with them in the past. Or some bearded guy ripped them off, one year, whatever. I don't want someone to judge me based on that kind of stuff. So I approach things differently. And I know some of that could have come a lot, growing up biracial. The Japanese are fairly, I don't want to say racist, but very cliquish. And being Hapa was, not a very acceptable thing at the time. And Jake, fuck. I'm sure Jake's got stories along those lines.
Yeah, my mom's black, my dad's white, so. But yeah, it's interesting just seeing different, seeing racist white people and then seeing racist black people and then just realizing that anybody can be fucking racist or sexist or whatever. So like when I see BLM bullshit, I'm like, y'all are fucking racist. Like, like, oh yeah, we can. You can't talk bad about black people, but we can talk badly about white. I'm like, well, that's essentially racism. I'm sorry, that's not what you want to hear. But when you're excluding people based on the color of their skin, it's racism. Like so, but that's we're gonna have to. I at least have to really go. I have to really go. But dude, that's why I knew this guy was a perfect guest. I know we'd easily fill like an hour and a half, and we filled like over 2. But dude, you need to get some sleep. And if you were here, dude, I'm telling you, if you show up to Texas or you're in Idaho, hit us up. We will feed you, and then we will go shoot some shit. We'll have a good time.
You do eat meat though, right?
Sorry.
You do eat meat, correct?
Oh yes, I'm the person who pisses off vegans.
So do you eat pork though? That's the question.
No, I don't eat pork.
Right, so you don't eat pork, but you do chicken and beef and
chicken, beef, mutton.
Okay.
And
that's for religious reason.
You don't drink any alcohol, even the kind that would technically be accepted under Islamic law.
For example,
well, like is it what was it thing about is fermented grain or grape?
No, that's yeah. As long as anything that intoxicates you, that comes under the whole drinking thing.
Yeah.
So it's not allowed.
Yeah, it's not halal, man. It's not halal.
It's not halal. Yeah.
Like you can't get drunk and you can't eat pork.
Pork is something which is religious, and I wouldn't eat pork for strictly religious reasons.
That's cool, dude. We make some great beef brisket down here in Texas. I got you, man. I got you. I make a little bit of barbecue every now and then, but
I'm
dude,
a barbecue person.
Very, very great pleasure having you on. I really wish I had like another 30 minutes to fucking pick your brain. We will have to get him back on this show.
Sure, definitely.
I look forward to playing some Call of Duty with you, though. Jumping on.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Man. We had in Plunder we had 35 and 32 kills. Only
Yeah.
two of us, me and Banduchka.
Oh shit. Oh
Yep.
shit.
It was crazy. People are falling and we're just killing them. That was fun.
Oh man, but that being said, thank you everybody for watching the show. If you go ahead and click the subscribe, like, comment, please spread the word. We're trying to come up with a bigger and better product, and we definitely want some interactions. At some point, we'd like to just like have a show where, you know, we can answer your questions and have like a mailbag or something of the sort. But Darian, did you want to put a last word in?
Man, if I put in a last word, it's going to start a whole another line of conversation, I'm sure. So I'm gonna actually defer to our guest. If you have a last word you want to say about whatever, it could be about the questions, it could be about Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, it could be about the United States, it could be about racism, it could be about alcohol or whatever you want.
5 minutes, sir.
Basically, I wanted to actually ask you guys that, Jake, you have interacted with people from Middle East, and like you have spent time with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
During your posting in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for Darian, I mean, any harsh question that you're too afraid to ask at someone else?
No, I've like I said, I worked in the funeral biz for a number of years and was exposed to many different cultures that way, and absolutely loved working on the Muslim services and working with those folk. And that was in the earlier 2000s, you know, closer to 9/11 when things were still a little bit jumpy.
Normal. Oh, closer to 9/11, like afterwards, right after 9/11.
Yeah, so, I mean, not quite that close. It was like, 2005, 2007. When was that? When was I at that funeral home that we did all the Muslim services? 2000, probably between 2006 to 2009, around there. So, I mean, it was definitely, it's closer than it is now, but people were still a little twitchier about it because our country wasn't as divided as it was. We had the common enemy, so to speak, and I'm making air quotes or whatever. We had the common enemy to be united against, and so it was really interesting working with them and learning about the culture and learning about the traditions and the ritual. I am someone who's very much into ritual and see a great deal of value in that and the preservation of that. So
the thing I love the most about Western culture is that this is an essential thing. I don't know how you feel about this, but in our culture, this is mostly Muslim people, although it has nothing to do with Islam, but people from Indo-Pak subcontinent and the Gulf region and all the Arabs. Our problem is that we poke our noses in others' business a lot, and that creates a lot of issues. Like I'm gonna see something and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, did you see that happened?" And then the word's gonna get around, and then people get hurt. Emotionally, people get hurt. That okay, if I did something, and if you saw me doing something, if you saw me doing something which was culturally incorrect, why do you have to go and tell someone else? And because the kind of culture we have over here, the values we have to live with your family and stuff like that, the word gets around easily, and then something you're too embarrassed to tell your parents, for example, they're gonna get to know through something or someone. And especially if you're living in a place where, for example, if I take an example of Jeddah, right? So a lot of Pakistanis who live here, it's a small community. So if one Pakistani sees me somewhere, he's gonna he's gonna blab about it to his friend, and that friend probably knows another friend of mine, and then the word is gonna get around. It's not something that you can easily get away from. So in US, people don't care what you're doing. I mean, um,
That's
all to
because
their
we're too
own.
busy meddling with other countries. I mean, when
Just
the U.S. starts meddling, that's when we start
bad shit
dropping
usually
bombs.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is exactly what I was talking about the other day with Jake. That we loved Trump for this very reason that he he kind of stopped the war all around the globe. He was trying to save money and he was pulling all his army back. That was perfect. I mean, if any country is going to shit, let them go to shit. It's their country. Don't meddle in their matters. And I don't understand how it helps them financially to go there and try to solve their issues. For example, Afghanistan. If Afghanistan is fucked up, you don't go there and try to fix their country. It's Afghanistan has nothing to offer, so just don't go. Save your
Opium,
money.
man, opium.
Oh, uh, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We're gonna see we're gonna start on a whole nother thing. We'll have to definitely schedule another chat, and
Sure,
maybe
man.
we'll do a
Sure,
reverse thing.
sure.
We can start throwing all the questions that you've got at us. Like, why are Americans so fucking stubborn and boneheaded
And
about
why
this
are you
shit?
guys fat and stupid and dude,
No,
just
I
write
don't
him,
have
just write him,
stupid.
just write him down, just write him down.
No,
We'll have,
actually, you know what? You know what? I was actually talking to my mom about something. We were talking about mental health, right? And we have this very common thing that anything the kid doesn't understand, we just slap them and they understand it, right? And we don't try to we don't try to understand the reason behind it. That it could be a mental issue or a slow learner or anything at all, right? So basically, I was talking to my mom about this, that the reason why America is far ahead of us is because number one, they don't meddle in each other's affair. They are busy doing their own thing. Number two, um, they label the issue, the problem. They label it first. They put a name on it, and then they try to solve it. This is a very scientific thing to do, and this is exactly what we don't do. Us as Middle Easterns or Arabs. This is what we're supposed to do, and the moment you start doing this, you're gonna progress forward. Every single thing, anything you see around you, or whether it's mentally or physically or emotionally, whatever it is, you name the problem and then start solving it, and you're gonna find a solution. And then after a while, you will get to know that this is a common thing that happened between people. So yes, I don't have such question that why Americans are like this or that. Actually, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but deep inside themselves, everyone looks up to America, and everyone wants to progress, and everyone wants to move forward when it comes to particularly these things, minus the violence.
Well, see, I've got that just opened up a whole mess more questions. Um, yeah, that opened up a whole whole mess of more questions, and I think Jake had to step away for a quick second. Um,
Yeah,
so yes, he did have to step away. He was on a hard time crunch. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat, and
thank
I
you
look
so
forward to
much.
setting up another time.
Sure, definitely, definitely.
So you had the final word, and I'm going to close this out since Jake had to dip out. And
No problem.
but again, thank you for taking. I know we kept you up way longer than we expected to.
Nah, it's cool.
Normally,
It's
normally we shoot for about an hour, and we've almost 3 hours now.
3 hours now. Wow. Yeah,
No,
it's 10 a.m. over here.
So with that, thanks for tuning in, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And send us emails, send us comments, let us know what we can do to be better and what kind of guests if you enjoyed this. And with that, this is Jake and Drake, and we're done. We'll see you next week.